Since the dawn of time, there has always been this idea of the strongest. We've seen it in nature, where the alphas lead the pack, and we've seen it in humanity, where the alpha takes priority over the teachers.
The alpha takes priority over everything. Do you not know how that works?
Which has led scientists to ponder this next question for ages. What does the strongest look like in Genshin Impact? And the answer has arrived in the form of this video, because today we continue the Archons Only series with everyone's favorite overpowered tyrannical dictator, Mavuika. Here are the rules. We can only use Mavuika, and all claymores are allowed, including 5 stars, as if this character really even needs one. Now let's see how quickly we can beat Genshin Impact only using Mavuika. Mavuika only, Mavuika only, Mavuika only.
I used to wonder what friendship could be.
Mavuika only.
Until you all shared its magic with me. Big adventure, tons of fun. A beautiful heart, faithful and strong. Sharing kindness, it's an easy feat. And magic makes it all complete.
Mavuika only.
You know you are my very best friend.
We start our journey celebrating the new year in June 2026. Back in 2025, on January 1st, people were celebrating how awesome 2025 was gonna be. Whether it was through drinking, kissing, or doom scrolling around loved ones. Then there was me pulling for this account. You can tell iconic characters just by their silhouette. Normally I would say something like, Kachan, Amber's Temple is the first obstacle in our journey. But with Mavuika, it's not. There was no thought in my head during this. No brain power at all to do this. Just look at what I was saying as I did this domain. Burger? Did he just say his name is Burger? Kaya is next, and it's implied that the burning smell would be the pyro slimes inside the domain, when it's very clearly the smell of burning rubber as Mavuika continues to just speed through the entire first act with this motorcycle. As for Lisa, you'll never guess what happened here. Remember when these skips would take effort to do? Chi-Chi needs this bike much more than this dictator.
It looks like fun and I want to do it.
No, I'm doing it.
Mavuika finished the first act in pretty quick succession, and while getting up to AR10, I'm gonna explain what's so good about this character. Right after I explain what's so good about today's sponsor, Zenless Zone Zero. ZZZ is a 3D action RPG with heavy emphasis on the action. I've talked about this game when it first came out, but we're in the Big 2.6 right now, and I want to tell you about the game's newest and biggest update, Season 3. Season 3 of ZZZ brings added gameplay features, a new city to explore, new characters, and a brand new story. Now, you might be thinking, MistahFeet, you're so funny and attractive, but how can I get invested into a story if I haven't even played the first parts of the game? Well, there's no need to fear, because the story skip button is here. You can enjoy the Season 3 story right now if you want it. It is a completely new world with new powers and a new plot. All you have to do is go over to the event panel, look for Journey, and get to Season 3. It doesn't matter if you haven't played since any 2.0 updates, or if you haven't even played since 1.0. You can play ZZZ and enjoy the new story without knowing anything. There's even a story recap and a way to save your progress if you want to enjoy the previous stories. Other parts of the update you can enjoy include the new city, Ras Califer, which is inspired by British aesthetics. But unlike London, there's plenty of color and whimsy to be found in this city inhabited by the Bangboos. Additionally, you can get a new outfit for the proxy, and you can even unlock Pyrosis, an agent of the Phaethon faction, for free based on the main character. But if you want to learn more as to why they are now suddenly playable compared to how they were just the start of the game, you can find out more with the Ras Califer story. You can enjoy ZZZ in its massive Season 3 update now using my link in the description. Thanks again to Zenless Zone Zero for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back into the challenge. Mavuika's release forever changed the DPS scaling in the game. The hierarchy of power in the Genshin meta is about to change. Ever since this character came out, there's been 2 types of DPS. Characters that either deal no damage compared to Mavuika, or characters that deal close or even more damage than Mavuika. Lesbianism is the only way to be stronger than Mavuika. Not even just 30 minutes into this game, she was hitting for almost 700 damage. Dog, some people haven't even made it to the first wish at this point.
I'm also like shooting him in the ass.
What made her this way? We'll start with the normal attacks. Mavuika's normals are the worst part of her kit, which is still like a 7 out of 10. Claymore attacks are some of the best weapons to have, they deal the best damage against shields, and in general, they just hit the hardest. Plus, her charge attack is probably the best one out of all the Claymore users, which means to say that it's not this move or this move. Mavuika's skill is the named moment, or as I like to call it, the Shogun's whole kit in one ability. The tap version of the skill requires no effort. All you do is walk near the enemies and radiation just drops on top of them. The Shogun's ability is similar to this, but what makes the named moment better is the fact that Mavuika doesn't have to hit enemies with normal attack damage, meaning she can actually hit shields.
I always thought I might be bad.
The only upside that the Shogun skill has compared to this is that her ability has permanent uptime, but you know, Mavuika's only behind that by like 2 seconds. Now for the held version, which is the pyro equivalent of
The Muso no Hitotachi.
Mavuika just hops onto this Harley Davidson, giving her tons of exploration options while also making her attacks pyro and dealing more damage. Why does she need this? Who knows? I guess alphas ride dangerously. This bike allows you to glide faster, move over water faster, move on the ground faster, climb walls faster, and even break rocks faster,
Nice job smashing those rocks, Mavuika. You look super cool.
while also having like a 6-second cooldown. Compare everything this ability can do with child skill and look at the cooldowns.
You think this is funny? In a cosmic sort of way, yes.
Then we have the burst, Light of the Blazing Sun. This isn't even a bike. This is a freight train that just jumps out of the sky. And when you don't have the cinematic camera, it's just a jump scare. This ultimate does so much damage. I can't say anything else because that's all it does. It's just too much damage. But that's not even all it does. It automatically puts your bike on. And if your skill is on cooldown when you did it, you can just refresh the duration if the cooldown comes back up because she needs it.
You know, I never had much as a kid.
Just one of the best skills in the game, one of the hardest hitting bursts, and the versatility to be in basically any comp needing pyro.
Useless crap like that.
Now, if we were to compare ults like this to the Shoguns, which have a really high energy cost, from a balance perspective, it would only seem fair and logical to have a high energy cost like that too, right? Well, no. She is the only character in the game to not have energy on her burst. Instead of energy, Mavuika has fighting spirit, whatever the hell that means.
Are you challenging me to a death match? Don't point your stick like that, okay?
Basically, whenever we use our bike, or just hit them with our normal attacks, we get fighting spirit. And even when it's halfway full, we can still use our burst and hit for a ridiculous amount of damage. But at least fighting spirit is hard to get, right? No, you get it by just playing the game. You don't even have to drive the bike. You can just waste gas and get this. She's doing that in this economy, and she will basically always have this up. So what's the downside of this character? There is none. This character is busted beyond repair. In fact, she is so broken that she actually messed up my recording for the rest of Mondstadt. No, I'm not joking. And I tried recovering it using an online software, and after a $30 transaction, this is what I got. Yeah, it's a PowerPoint presentation. But I can't call this the worst transaction I've ever done because I've spent $25 on Genshin pulls before and only got the bell and Kujo Sara. The rest of this challenge was recorded completely fine. It's only Act 2 and 3 of Mondstadt that's messed up. So I apologize and ask for your patience for like the next minute and a half while we try to piece back together what happened in this nation. Mavuika started Act 2 in less than 3 hours, putting her ahead of basically every other character I've done.
Sorry to keep a lady in waiting.
And she is going to keep pressing her lead with the Eye of the Storm. Normally, melee characters have to be more patient against this enemy because they float in the air for a little bit of time. Well, Mavuika's skill just acts like a comically large anvil and forces it into the ground. And if that wasn't enough, we then ulted and hit for 1k damage already. This wasn't even a crit, nor was it even a full burst. What other characters doing burst damage like this at this point in the game?
Hey, you son of I guess not.
I know Trial Deluxe ass isn't.
I always thought I might be bad. Now I'm sure that it's true.
You really can just do whatever you want on this character.
That's actual bullshit.
I'm spinning donuts against this Fatui agent, and he's just not doing anything because our attacks just keep knocking him down because she needs it. And you know what else she needs? A burst that keeps hitting for 1k even though she's level 20. But there is no such thing as perfection. And we learned that the hard way because Mavuika had her first death in the run. I guess she was too busy trying to show off her ass and she died from fall damage. I am good at this game. Damn it, I just keep dying because someone keeps showing their fat ass and won't help me. You will be relieved to know that even with the choppy footage, Mavuika's rock smashing abilities were still amazing, even compared to Shalonen standards. In contrast to the frame rate, Mavuika defeated Dvalin pretty quickly, but you actually may be surprised to hear that she didn't do it in one phase. Yeah, I know, I could hardly believe it either. Mavuika finished Mondstadt in 3 hours and 58 minutes, making her the fastest character ever done so far, by about 40 minutes. With Mavuika starting leeway, we were starting to shift gears. I just wanted to make some pun regarding motor vehicles because I have this clip of the bike climbing the bamboo, and I thought it was funny. But you know, let's put some energy into this run. I haven't been negative because she's bad. It's just why does she need my support? I'm just watching her do everything. Nahida sucked, but I tried to support her at times. Because there were points in the run where she was good. It's like cheering a fat dog in a race. Yeah, it's definitely not winning, but it's fun to look at them go. Watching Mavuika go is like watching a pro athlete destroy preschoolers. It's funny at the beginning, but after a while, you just feel bad for the kids, all while they just keep running the score up so they can gas up their ego. And you know what? I'm gonna help gas her up too for the first act. Let's shit on these kids. My goat started out on some bullshit because she ulted the first group of enemies and got a higher damage number in just 5 hours than some characters have gotten in their whole 50-hour journey. Oh, someone's favorite Archon Nahida.
How you doing, Mr. Nice Prince? Get your f***ing ass in there.
And we're just gonna keep stunting on the children by breaking these rocks.
Nice job smashing those rocks, Mavuika. You look super cool.
No child is safe when Big M is nearby, whether it's physical or spiritual. Oh, does Zhongli need his pillar to make it across the street? Well, check this out. Now that we finished Act 1, I'm gonna need you all to hear me out with my next statement as I ask for your understanding. In this world, there is such thing as races that are objectively better than others, i.e., basically everyone is better than Inazumians. But for solo runs, the best race tends to be the Natlanese characters since they can actually get a buff in their own nation, and now Mavuika can stay on this broken ass bike for longer. Wow, we're talking about superior races in a video about Mavuika. Will she ever beat the allegations? I've said that she's been evil since the beginning. Typically for solo bosses in these runs, the boss resists the element of the characters. Kaya is a cryo character, so he needs cryo materials, but obviously a cryo boss would resist cryo. You know, this carries over for Pyro Flowers with Deluxe, Oceanid. But at best, the boss tends to go neutral with the character, like Kachina fighting the Dendro Chud, for example. However, up until now, we've never really had a character that actually hard counters their own boss, because she needs it. The Secret Source Automaton configuration device is an enemy that would be very annoying to fight with literally almost any other character I've had to do. But with Mavuika, it's brainless, because they have a shield that gets depleted faster whenever you attack it with Natlan characters. Like I said, objectively speaking, I'm gonna start sounding like that furry who made the racism video. And once we break this shield, we can just climb these rocks with our bike, hit it once, and now we can DPS the boss while it's stunned, hitting it for almost 4k without even critting. Yeah, man. Light of the Blazing Sun. Leeway, Act 2. Yeah, I don't know what we're all expecting with this. So, right off the bat, we have to use fire to heat up the rocks. But would you believe me if I told you it took less hits to kill enemies than it did to heat up the pot itself? The enemy that has given Mavuika the most resistance in this run is a cooking pot. Also, while we did this, I'm just gonna say a personal story because this section reminded me of it. Back in high school, I was in physics class and a student asked the teacher, which was hotter, the sun or a microwave? He was being fully serious. The teacher didn't answer him, but if he happens to be watching this video, it seems like the light of the blazing sun might just be a little warmer. Next up are the slimes, and typically this is a good section for most characters in these challenges. Elemental reactions are pretty important in Genshin Impact. It's literally in the name. So whenever a character has mediocre damage on their own, enemies like these drastically improve their performance. So what does this mean for Mavuika? Leeway Act 3. And if you thought this character would finally reach a stopping point, well, you might be right, or not. Because for the first time in the history of this channel, we actually have a character who has a chance to reach this island without using anima. Yes, Mavuika's bike is actually pretty close to reaching it, but sadly, we just didn't have enough gas left in the tank. So I spent the next 30-ish minutes building the wind catcher, and this was just barely not able to make it. She was extremely close, but this will mark the first cant for Mavuika since we had to use the wolf riding bike in order to make it across, which led us to the next boss fight against Child. At this point in the run, I was in the hipster phase of the challenge where I just kept using the tap version of the skill since it's easier. What else can I say? Yeah, I'm a chud. I could just play the game normally, but because of the tap skill, I can just like play the game however I want, and then every other second I'll get a free 1k pyro damage. And it's because of this raw power that Mavuika finished Leeway in just over 10 hours, but for her individual Leeway time, she finished in 5 hours, 10 minutes, and 11 seconds, making her the new god of Leeway. Zhongli put up Lantern Right so he could make both Aino and Nahida not have a faster time than him, but there was nothing he could do to stop his greatest foe, adult women. Okay, that actually sounds really bad. Before Inazuma, we have 2 quests to do. The Jade Chamber is on hold for right now because she's just blitzing through this game fast enough to be AR 30 just after these 2 quests. These quests contained Mavuika's biggest threat so far, the Pyro Abyss Mages. Ooh. Immunity to the fire burst from the Pyro Archon does prove to be helpful to these enemies, until they get a massive club banging on them from the outside. Yes, she has the best weapon against shields, because she needs it. The Pyro Archon is now on her way to the land of the rising sun, and right off the bat, she's hitting for 5k. Nope, 6k, actually, I lied, 7k damage. The prison is the next stop in Mavuika's journey, which is fitting because it's where she should be based off of what we learned in the Goku video. I'm not a dictator.
Stinker!
Have you read my lore?
Stay in character!
This run has the same amount of depth as Zhongli's, but in a different aspect. Both don't have much to talk about, but Zhongli was like that because he couldn't die. Mavuika's like that because everyone else just dies too fast. There is, however, at least one interesting thing I can talk about for Inazuma Act 2. The first Shogun fight isn't one that I talk about anymore. In the past, I would say something like, Deku, you nerd, this fight only takes 2.5 minutes to do. Since this battle really is just a waiting game, so there wasn't really a need for me to talk about it. At least, that's what I thought until I played Mavuika, who showed me that this fight can actually be done in 1 minute and 20 seconds. She beat the Shogun so badly that the game had to make her stop, and then it forced her to do the archery demonstration. Now, as for these wooden targets, she did just try to drive her bike into them, but you know, thankfully they have like regulation stopping that. At least her skill here is just like the Shogun's though, useless for all eternity. Maybe these 2 abilities are more alike than they thought. You people ship Yaimiko and Shogun and Mavuika Shallonen all you want. Real cultured individuals will be enjoying Transcendence, Baleful Omen, and The Named Moment. Following another jump scare, Mavuika was 1 quest away from potentially adding another nation under her rule. Luckily, Inazuma has 1 form of defense left for the country, that being electro pillars. This is useful information to have when Mavuika inevitably snaps. Just hide under one of these and she can't get to you. Just do not try and fight her like these guys did. This run feels like my reward for having done so many of these character challenges. Like, I've had to play all of these units, and you know how those have gone. But now, I get a character that can hit for 8k, and even hit enemies that are resistant to her for 4k. 2 numbers that are both higher than some characters have gotten in an entire 50-hour run. Now we've got the 2 last bosses for this nation, and I think for this I'm just gonna do the burst slop montage. Would you believe me if I told you that she has numbers that surpass this greatly in the future? At this point, you probably should. Mavuika finished Inazuma in 14 hours and 43 minutes, making her still the fastest character so far. As I've said previously, beating this nation under 24 hours used to be a pretty big deal, and now we've gotten to the point where a character can do this a whole 9 hours before that. As for her Inazuma time, Mavuika finished this in 3 hours, 34 minutes, and 4 seconds, making her the fastest character for Inazuma.
Until now.
Because it's actually Nahida who is still the Archon of Inazuma. Mavuika's only like 3 minutes behind her. It looks like those elemental reactions were doing a whole lot for Nahida's time. The streak has ended. It looks like she will not be able to rule over all of Teyvat. Now, of course, someone like Mavuika would not take a defeat like this with grace. That's just not in her nature. You could say she's a bit of a hothead. So she's going to try and clear these next quests as fast as she can. The first group of enemies, just like everyone else, died pretty quickly, but the same did not apply for the normal Abyss mages here. In fact, we got to see Mavuika die. I should be making a much bigger deal out of this, but it's hard to do that because she just rises from the ashes, comes down, and one-shots these enemies. Also, Mavuika can break the rocks here. It's glad to see that she's still keeping her identity.
So,
Nice job smashing those rocks, Mavuika.
Before we entered Sumeru, we still had a couple things on our to-do list, the first of which was making a new weapon. As we saw in my I Know video, the prototype Archaic is objectively the greatest claymore of all time. Therefore, it was a no-brainer to make this weapon from the blacksmith, but we can only ascend it to level 40 because of daily materials. Thank you, Genshin Impact.
I always thought I might be bad, now I'm sure that it's true.
You might think that a weapon being level 40 at this point in the run wouldn't be that useful to have, which is a pretty fair and rational judgment to make, honestly. And I just want you to keep that in mind for like the next couple of minutes. To begin the Jade Chamber quest, Mavuika gets to do what she's best at.
Nice job smashing those rocks, Mavuika. You look super cool.
This quest is Mavuika's personal training dummy. We don't have to go to Milliaster Wonderland, thankfully, to test our damage, because throughout numerous points in this quest, we hit for 11k, which is now a higher damage number than Mona's. We then hit for 15k, which is just 2,000 off of the current damage high, but it doesn't end there. She also managed to hit for 17k, and if you want to get real specific, this even surpasses Zhongli's damage high, which is the highest damage ever done by a character in this channel. And remember, she's doing these numbers 16 hours into the run with a level 40 weapon. Why does she hit this hard? Because she needs it. This nation is pretty interesting. Normally, Sumeru is the point in the run where a character either stagnates or it only gets worse for them. You probably know where this is gonna go. Now we have a much more definitive damage high for the series, a level 40 weapon by the way. But can we get much higher? Yes, actually, a lot higher sadly, but just wait. It's gonna be a minute until we get to another section like that, so I'm just gonna fill in the first 4 acts of Sumeru with the slop corner, because as you can see, this character's still just gonna be killing everyone almost instantly. But I am gonna talk about some bullshit happened in Act 4, because for the Dendro Pillars, Mavuika is able to do all of them except for one. I have no idea why, but her charge attack does not work on this pillar. The Dendrogen just gets sent flying off into the dirt. And I tried this from every angle, granted that isn't much, but this would actually be a can't for the character if she didn't have another charge attack. Yes, because of this bike, we were able to use an attack that actually works and she could progress because she needs it. For the original finale of Sumeru, Mavuika actually embarrasses herself here.
I'm still Platinum 2.
She ulted and hit for only 3k damage. Everyone quickly point and laugh at her. What is this? Leeway? Dog ultimate. As for the factory, this was probably the most that I've been able to explore this domain. You know, this hoverboard just takes us wherever we want, and what I wanted to do was avoid these enemies, and now we have Scaramouche. I decided to go ahead and fight it during this phase because, just realistically, she was going to kill it before she could kill us. However, there was an interesting obstacle presented here. Mavuika's normal bike attacks cannot hit the electro turrets, and I thought this was especially weird considering one of the attacks is the bike going into the air and crashing down, but that doesn't mean Mavuika fails this section, because of course not. What? Her attacks cannot reach the turrets, but her dash can. Yes, the dash on her bike can reach them.
Please, Daddy.
I told you, when I'm finished, you can have what's left.
There won't be any left. There's never any left.
Light of the blazing sun!
Let's just get this nation over with. For the polluted island, she just flew past every single enemy, and for the bonfire, she could do it. Which now raises the question for my physics teacher. What is hotter? the sun, or a campfire. Mavuika finished the entirety of Sumeru after just 24 hours of playtime, and with a total Sumeru runtime of 7 hours, 14 minutes, and 53 seconds, making her the Archon of Sumeru because she's a tyrant who gets whatever she wants, which even includes this. Yes, for the first time in this channel, I got a 5-star weapon that I could actually use and ascend. And out of every character, it was for Mavuika, the character who needed it the most apparently. And I did not pay for this, by the way. I saved all of my pools from this since I started the challenge, collected all of my achievements, and we got this. And if you wanted to know how much this actually improves our damage, well, here you go. A near 20k damage increase. Yes, granted, the enemies could just learn to play around the crits, but keep in mind, the normal damage on this ult hits at the same level as the highest damage ever done by a single character in a series with over 20 characters. And this is up every 15 seconds because of Fighting Spirit. Whatever the hell that means. She can clear out the hardest room in the game for some of my challenges in less than a minute. My build isn't even that crazy. It's not even crazy at all. There's a reason that the slop has been playing on the corner for the entirety of Fontaine. She goes on the bike and she says, try and stop me. I can't. I actually can't. Because you can just tap E, do nothing, and still do more damage in 10 seconds than characters like Nahida.
I always thought I might be bad.
We finished Fontaine in 6 hours, 38 minutes, and 32 seconds, making her the Hydro Archon in a sea of gods where the competition is basically non-existent. Mavuika's time sticks out like a sore thumb, and it may seem like I made a mistake because everyone else's times are so close to each other. And since most of this quest is just talking with like 6 pieces of combat, there's no way the time gap should be like this, right?
Aren't we forgetting one teensy-weensy but ever so crucial little tiny detail?
The bike. Yes, this quest is mostly just walking around and talking, but since we have a vehicle that basically doubles our move speed whenever we climb, glide, or run, it starts to make those gaps between each other a lot shorter. But now, we just have one last nation. So far, Mavuika has dominated this run. No character has been even close to her, aside from the demon that is Inazuma Nahida. But either way, her overall time is leagues above everyone else. And if you thought this run couldn't get any more ridiculous, the final nation contains a buff for Mavuika. Normally, Mavuika can be on the bike for 8 seconds. You can extend this even longer by using your burst when the bike is on cooldown, and once the cooldown's up, you can extend the duration again and refresh it with the skill. That right there's like 15, 16-ish seconds of using the pyro version of the Muso no Hidotachi. But now that we are in Natland, this gives us access to the Night Soul meter, or as I like to call it, the Nightometer. The Nightometer gives us an extra 11 seconds of time for us to use the bike, and since the cooldown is shorter than 11 seconds, that also means we get another refresh of gas for our bike. And if we include the time with the combo that we've been doing for most of this run, we can get over 30 seconds of time on this bike because she needs it. Not like that even matters too much. 30 seconds is overkill when you kill enemies in 5. This is the most brain dead character I've ever had the privilege of using, even more than Zhongli, and that character can literally not die. I hit someone for 15k and they weren't even on my screen.
That was the stupidest thing I have ever seen in my life, and I cannot believe how stupid that was. I don't understand. I don't get it. I'm about to start twerking. I'm about to get completely naked and start twerking.
The war in Natland is usually one of the longest sections that a character has to do in these challenges. It's basically like an hour and a half to 2 hours of just straight fighting. Mavuika did it in 50 minutes. Because of this ridiculous damage and because she's Natlandese, race does matter in Genshin Impact. Natland characters have an advantage against these types of shields. Normally it takes elemental damage to deplete them, but if the character doing the elemental damage is from Natland, the damage they receive is increased because she needs it. And what makes this whole thing even funnier is that in these cutscenes, Mavuika gets buffed. Yeah, I know it's the My Little Pony friendship is magic scene, but I promise any of these other characters would benefit more from this power than like Super Saiyan 5 Goku over here. This OC ass character. Act 5 of Natland is actually something new I can talk about. This quest is basically just the Traveler and Mavuika. Would you look at that? We're given a trial Mavuika who does not use the City signature weapon, but despite that, she is still hitting for 56k. Will this count for our run? No. But I will include the next big instance of damage in the Gasoithaw fight. During this encounter, Kokaina was trying to talk some shit, but she forgot that we get to play the most busted character to drop in Genshin Impact's history, which resulted in our sword hitting for a buff damage high of 1,429,542 damage. And yeah, I'm gonna count this because, you know, why not at this point? Oh no, she might even hit this number normally by the end of this run. You can tell the audience in-game is very happy about this. The crowd goes mild. Act 6 of Natlan, the dream ending. Because once this quest is done, I will never be able to experience a challenge like this ever again. So enjoy the slop corner because this quest is going to be over relatively quickly. Largely because every single fight here has a gas station for us to use. The longest battle in this entire run was against the Pyrolector, and that was like 10 minutes. But believe it or not, there was some problems for Mavuika here. I will not lie, I did struggle a little bit. It's immune to our skill and ultimate, so we just have to use our sword to whittle it down. I even died here and had to make food, which was a first for this run. So you know how at the beginning of the game, when you open up the mail, you get a free 10 pull for the standard banner. One thing you also get in the mail are some Mondstadt hash browns and some sweet Madame chicken. I hope you're starting to see where I'm going with this. Throughout this entire 40-hour journey, I've never had to make food once until now. I've just been relying on this stash because she kills enemies so fast that they can't even hurt us. And even after this fight, there are no more pyro enemies. Everything else is just burst slop. Go ahead and give her the crown. We already know she's the fastest for Natlan. Let's just see by how much. And after 40 hours, 44 minutes, and 54 seconds, we beat Genshin Impact only using Mavuika. This character is now the Archon of every nation except for Inazuma. Now he does the last bastion against tyranny. I think she's the best character to pull for in the game for a variety of reasons that I'll just list here because I'm too tired to talk about them, so you can just pause here or listen as I go through my made-up ranking system. Damage. Let me think. She's a 5. No, I don't even have to explain this. Exploration, 5. Her skill just makes literally everything about exploring better, plus she's the best rock smasher in Genshin apparently.
Nice job smashing those rocks, Mavuika. You look super cool.
Sustain. Okay, you might think I'm glazing Gagwika too much, but hear me out. Her sustain has to be relatively good because she kills enemies so quickly that they can't hurt her. And if she's not taking that much damage in this run, then clearly she has to have some good sustain. Bosses, 5. I mean, yeah, who else stood a chance? Lastly, we have ability/utility, and it's another 5. Her passives are useless in this context, but that doesn't matter. Her skill alone does more than some characters' entire kits in this whole game, and her burst is just a ridiculous damage spike every 15 seconds. Overall, Mavuika gets a 23 out of 25, making her the highest rated character ever, while ending with a buff damage high of 1 million, but if you don't count that, it would be around like 11k, and an unbuffed damage high of 36k, meaning she is now the highest damaging character I have ever used. This now concludes the easiest challenge I've ever had to do so far, and originally the Fontaine Archon was going to be next after Nahida, but I just couldn't do it. I needed to have a break before I had to use yet another Hydro Catalyst user.
Tell me why.